Welcome to the STEM Pathways with Rohan Sharma podcast, where we dive into the exciting world of science, technology, engineering, and math. In each episode, we share exciting stories, groundbreaking research, and inspiring interviews with experts and enthusiasts who are pushing the boundaries of innovation. Whether you're a student or professional, or just curious about how the world works, join us as we explore the endless possibilities of STEM. Let's get started. Today, I'll be interviewing Brian Rosenberg, who holds a bachelor's in math and physics from MIT. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you this morning?
I'm doing good. So, to get started, I wanted to ask you about what your interests were back in high school and what led you to choosing your major for your undergrad.
Sure. So in high school, I guess I was already firmly established in the STEM kind of camp. I was on the math team and chess club and taking a lot of AP classes. Um, I guess at that point, I wanted to be a physicist. And in fact, I thought I wanted to be like a high energy particle physicist. So back then, the US was considering building a collider in Texas. And I thought I wanted to smash stuff together and see what happened. Um, and then I got a scholarship from the National Security Agency, and they required you to major in one of a few critical skills fields, and physics was not one of them. So, but mathematics was. So then I was like, fine, I will major in math to meet the requirements of this scholarship, which was going to allow me to go to MIT, and then I'll go be a physicist.
Yeah. So, coming into MIT, did you immediately think like, yes, this was the right decision? And did your interest shift at all?
Definitely knew it was the right decision. The amazing thing there is you get people who were, the best in their high school, and then and then all of a sudden you're in a sea of those people, and so it's a great adjustment to like learn that there's people like just like you all over the place. And bringing those people together, and lots of cool stuff happens. Uh, did my interests expand? Um, yeah, I would say I learned quite a bit more about being an experimentalist than I had before, and in particular how hard it is to control all the variables that you need. So actually, by the time I was like a junior, MIT has a sort of famously difficult physics class called Junior Lab, where you are reproducing these famous experiments, and it's really quite a struggle. And so then I was sort of scratching my chin a little bit about, do I really want to be an experimental physicist for real? Um, yeah, so things change for sure.
So, during your time at MIT, what extracurriculars were you involved in?
Well, I had started editing my high school newspaper, and I really enjoyed the both the ability to like challenge the administration and the excitement of journalism, also opportunity to work on the sort of verbal skills instead of just like math and logical skills. And I started working for the MIT student newspaper. Um, Basically right away. And then I was an editor and eventually became editor in chief there as well. I played some ultimate frisbee. Um, what else do we do? Oh, I theater. I had a went to theater. I had a theater subscription. Um, yeah, that's pretty much how I spent my time.
So, out of all the classes you did, and obviously MIT is like a very rigorous school, what do you think was the hardest one you did, and were there any classes that you think have impacted or helped you the most after graduating?
Like I said, junior lab was hard and required many long, long nights in the lab. God bless my lab partner, Denise Ciotti. She was a real pleasure to work with and patient, and that was great. I would say there was a analysis class, mathematics analysis class. That one was hard as well. What was the second half of the question?
Yeah, and then out of all the classes you did, is there anything that you think has helped you the most in what you're doing now?
There's no one class I would point to for that. I would say the thing that helps me now is just this overall sense of being able to think about a challenging problem and not be scared of it and like take it in small pieces and just, continue to bash away and make progress. And I don't think that's the responsibility of any one class. That's just the overall like vibe and environment there.
Yeah. So during college, did you kind of like realize what job or career you wanted to go into?
Well, so this scholarship that I mentioned before, it required working as a summer intern, basically, at NSA during all the summers in between college years, and so I learned pretty quickly that NSA had lots of interesting problems to offer, and a great body of really skilled mathematicians, like people I were way better than I was ever going to be. And so yeah, I guess that combined with the stuff I talked about earlier with like, oh, experimental physics is really quite a challenge and maybe not where my strengths lie. Yeah, it became pretty clear that like I said, by junior year, that I probably wasn't going to do physics professionally, and that NSA, the scholarship also came with a post-graduation working requirement of like 3 or 4 years. So at the time, I was like, started switching my mental outlook to, I'm just going to do this for 3 or 4 years to this could be a long-term thing. So um, yeah, I would say by junior year, I was knowing I was going to be an NSA mathematician for a fairly long time.
So what kind of math were you doing and what were you using it for?
So there's lots of combinatorics in NSA problems. So, combinatorics is counting the different possibilities in, certain situations. So you use that to understand these statistics that I'm observing in a ciphertext message. Are they all that unusual? And what kind of um, generation model could be producing, a pattern like that? There's some algebra as well, statistics. Um, and what was the second half of so I think those are the three main kinds of mathematics that are happening there. And what was this? There was a second half of the question, or?
Yeah. And so you said that you were using these for ciphers.
Yeah, so uh, NSA has, and I think still has a great program for mathematicians when you come full time. There's like a sort of internal rotation thing. So you do these six month tours, and you get to see different organizations and how they use mathematics, signal processing, and looking at ciphertext and lots of other stuff. I wound up pretty quickly. I was gravitating to the information security side of things. So, NSA has two missions, basically ensuring that, we can observe signals and information that our adversaries are sending out and preventing adversaries from making those same kinds of observations of, US communications. So I went to the information security side of things. And there was people there that I really enjoyed working with, and it sort of felt good to be, protecting our warfighters in that way as well.
So how long did you end up spending at the NSA?
So I was there until 2002. So like 15, I mean, counting the time that I was in college, I guess that was 1989 to 2002. So that's whatever that is, 14 years.
And while you're there, how did your role shift?
Um, I would say it was slowly moving towards, being like a leader rather than an individual contributor. Um, so I led a small team or section of like 4 or 5 people, and then I was probably going to, move to kind of higher levels of management. But that was a slow shift, not by anybody else's choosing, just me sort of enjoying the technical roles, and then slowly realizing that I had some managerial skills that maybe some of my peers didn't have, and that it would probably be a good service for me to go that direction as well.
Oh, what advice would you have for someone who just graduated and just started working, who initially isn't sure whether, like exactly what they want to do in their career? I know a lot of people like their goal coming in is like, yeah, I want to get promoted, I want to go into management. Do you think that's a good outlook on things, or should they mostly just focus on what they're doing at the moment?
I I mean, of course, people have different goals in their life. There's nothing wrong with, wanting to ascend the ranks of whatever, but I would say just make sure you're not losing sight of doing something you love, because the feeling of like passion and commitment and energy that you can bring to working on something that you enjoy, I think is more rewarding overall than whatever ranks. So you can, and many people do achieve both of those goals. The other thing I would say, especially these days, is like don't specialize or narrow yourself too quickly. Like the world of work, I think, is evolving pretty rapidly nowadays, and you don't want to limit your options. Which doesn't mean you have to be a generalist. It just means like, keep your eyes on what's happening and, technology trends and stuff like that. So that's what I would say. Don't be too boxed in. I think it's very unusual these days for people to go to a single job and stay in that job for 30 years. Like that doesn't really happen anymore.
And when you say like don't get boxed in, how do people get boxed in? I know I've talked to people before who said like there's a point where yeah, they just kind of got into a role where it's really hard to move around. What do roles like that look like, and how could people avoid doing that?
That's a hard question. Um, Roles like that can look a lot of different ways. I would say so. One is being like tied too much in a particular sector. So, um, you might be developing skills that only work in the defense sector or only valuable to a drug development like pharmaceutical company. And so, like I said, it's okay to do that for a little while, but like if you get yourself too sucked in there, then sometimes it can be hard to get out. So it's not so much um, about a role specifically, I guess, as just bearing in mind about, the things I'm learning to do right now, are they applicable anywhere else? That's all.
So something I've been wondering a lot recently is I started like working at my first internship. When do you realize that you don't like the work you're doing? Were there any times where you realize like, oh, this absolutely like isn't for me. I need to get out of this. And after talking, asking like other people the same question, I've come to realize that a lot of the time it's not just about the work you're doing. It's also about like the people you're working with, the company you're at, and a million other things. But well, yeah, was there ever a time where you realized you didn't like what you're doing?
Yeah, you're definitely right about the primary problem usually being like something organizational or interpersonal rather than like the technical nature of the problem. Of course, you can get stuck working on things that like, are either boring or sort of seems dead end. Um, I guess that so it's frustrating working on stuff and then having it not ever be deployed. Like so if you're solving a problem and then the organization's focus shifts away to a different different problem space or there's some external development that makes your thing irrelevant. That's annoying. But yeah, so for sure having a team and people that you really enjoy working with and that you guys feel like you can collaborate well together, that's by far the most important thing.
So when you switched over to Qualcomm, what was the first role you had?
What was I called in Qualcomm? I mean, the title was probably staff engineer, um, and it was in the central product security team. So that team was and is responsible for ensuring that products, the products and solutions that Qualcomm ships are, appropriately secured, so that, we don't become the sort of gateway or the entry point for, hackers to mess up your device, phone, headphones, car, whatever. Um, and so then that role was, performing code reviews, helping teams understand the output of those code reviews, writing tooling to, um, make those go faster, which is sort of funny now, given all the explosion that's happened in automated ability to find software vulnerabilities, and also like performing what I would call like architectural assessments. So not at the code software level, but like from a design point of view, what are the different trust boundaries in this system, and are they protected appropriately?
All right, and then real quick, what do you think about all these new AI things that have been affecting like cybersecurity?
Um, I mean, I think we haven't seen the end of the changes that are coming. Um, you know, software is, formal language and formal system. And, it's one of those things that's in that sort of sweet spot for computers and hard for people like chess or Go. Um, so, I think it's on the more creative side of that. Um, but yeah, I think, we're going to continue to see computers that, get better and better at working in those more structured kind of environments where the rules are clear. Um, and some other sort of less structured places, maybe not as much. But yeah, both on the offense and defensive side, I think AI is going to continue to make an impact. I don't really see people getting like fired because of it, at least not in security. I just see things going faster. So bugs will be discovered sooner and fixed sooner, and it's going to allow developers to focus more on new features. I think it's probably a good thing overall.
And then as far as like AI has affected your work, I know like a lot of people say for like software developers, like, oh, it led to them initially thinking it was helpful and then they ended up making a bunch of crap code. But then as at least in my internship right now, I know it's been a few years since AI has like really been used in the workforce. And I've seen it make like some people and basically prompt engineer their whole job at times if
Sure.
they're like just writing straight code. Do you think it's made like a very big positive impact? And do you think there are any very big negative things that it's also done at the same time?
Let's see. I don't I don't ship code for a living. Um, but I will say, I think one of the good things it's doing is so relieving people of some, like when I'm in a meeting now, I no longer take notes or, I'm trying to type into Notepad and so I'm able to more, to concentrate more on what's happening because Copilot is listening in Qualcomm, we use Copilot. And so Copilot is listening to the call and the notes there are pretty good. Um, I'm using it and an internal tool that we have to answer questions that I would normally like, walk down the hall to, my colleague and knocked on his door and said, "Hey, I have a question about subsystem XYZ." And that's both good and bad. It's good because I don't disturb that colleague, but sometimes those conversations turn into like, something else, and then you have. So I think that's a double-edged sword that reduced interaction. And I would say overall, the negative thing that I see happening is like a decrease in skills. It's pretty easy to start relying on it, like the same way when you're driving and you're using GPS, and then does your overall like geographical knowledge and your understanding of the environment goes down, right? I mean, that's inevitable. And I think that same kind of like general loss of skill level is something that's easy to fall into.
So, at Qualcomm, how's your role shifted from when you started to where you are now?
Yeah, well, so I've been at Qualcomm twice. There was the first time from 2003 to 2019, and then I left and went somewhere else, and then came back in last year. Um, so during that first 16-year stretch, that I worked in that central product security team, and it grew from about 6 people to 45 or 50, and so my role sort of grew along with that, helping to hire a lot of those people, managing quite a few of them. By the end, there about half of that 45-person team, rolled up to me. So, I moved much more quickly away from being a like individual contributor solving particular problems to, coordinating efforts across multiple directions and reviewing reports and, personnel management and stuff like that. I think the key there was to understand that the value you create in like helping other people, advance their careers and make sure that the administrative and organizational roadblocks are out of their way, that's a really valuable contribution as well, as much so as like solving the individual problems themselves.
So since you're able to kind of form this team that you're leading now, 45 people, and like be there from the start to the finish and hire everyone, do you think growing the team that way allowed you to do anything differently than someone who was just hired into a role and promoted up to the position you're in now?
Yeah, you're saying that like that long-term organic growth.
Yeah.
Yeah, there came sort of deep knowledge of the culture and the organization and having lots of contacts in different parts of the company um, that you wouldn't immediately have if you just got hired in. And I realize I'm sort of saying something maybe a little bit contradictory to what I said before about not getting boxed in. I guess what I would say there is, um, spending a long time at a particular company is not a problem necessarily. And then the things that I was learning were and are, broadly applicable. So, you could take them to a different company or a different, sector and have no problem.
So, you said by the end of that like 16-year period at Qualcomm, your team had grown to 45 people, and then you left to go somewhere else for a bit.
That's right.
Yeah. So, what was the job that you held in between?
Oh, so I went to, it was at the time I moved there was United Technologies Corporation. And then pretty soon thereafter, there was a merger with the Raytheon company. And then now it's called Raytheon Technologies and then RTX. And that was a similar role in the central product security team as well. And so there, and I was managing some people there off and on as well. So very similar role, different. That was the aerospace and defense industry, so different industry, but same kind of thing.
So, when you came back to Qualcomm, were you on the same team or did you change it up?
No, I'm in a related, it might sound the same, but it is different. It's a security architecture team, so we're a little bit closer to the people who are actually producing the product. So in the other role, it was sort of like internal consultancy, and this team that I'm on now is basically immediately adjacent to folks who are shipping code for a living, and so we're basically the way you can think about it is we're designing the security architecture as opposed to the previous role where we were sort of reviewing it, that security architecture and implementation. So just it's kind of the other side of the coin, essentially.
And then how different does this feel compared to what you were doing before?
It does actually feel pretty different. For one thing, the sort of schedule pressures and the immediate need to deliver a particular feature or subsystem on the timeline, that's more acutely felt in the role I'm in now than it was before. um, and the other thing I guess I would say is there's a different kind of um, responsibility when you're the one building the thing as opposed to, so it's like starting from a not a totally blank sheet of paper, of course, because there's previous designs and stuff like that. But you have you're making choices about design decisions and in a way that's more immediate and more direct than in the other role.
So, throughout your career, like obviously started out kind of doing more of the hands-on work and you slowly shift into management where you're telling other people what to do a bit more. Uh, do you think you enjoy kind of this like shift of your like work lifestyle where you go from like hands-on stuff to kind of more meetings and guiding others?
I mean, it's a double-edged sword for sure. In this role I'm in now, I think is a good mix. I have four people reporting to me, and at that level, I can continue to work on technical problems directly, and so that's really nice. Yeah, I enjoy both kinds of things, but they are definitely different styles of working. Um,
Yeah. So for my last question, I wanted to ask if you have one piece of advice for someone who's still in high school or college wanting to follow a similar career path as you.
I have a couple pieces of advice. One is about, staying broad, or at least, aware of, your options, because the workplace is, I think, shifting. And the other one is don't have too much of a plan, because it's probably not going to work out the way you think it is. So if you get tied to a particular plan, you might wind up, being upset when that's not working out. So stay flexible, stay loose, and good opportunities will come your way.
All right, thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.